When I was a kid, my parents would sometimes drop me off at my aunt and uncle's house for the weekend. They lived on a small farm, far from town, surrounded by open fields and quiet roads. Most of my time there was spent with my two cousins, who were close to my age and just as restless as I was. With no neighbors nearby and very few rules enforced, we were free to run, climb, and explore wherever curiosity pulled us, as long as we thought we wouldn't get caught. Not far from there, property, about half a mile away, stood an abandoned farm that had been untouched for decades. Several old buildings were still standing, weathered and collapsing, almost inviting trespassers to explore them. 2, 3 adventurous kids, it was irresistible. My cousins filled my head with terrifying stories about the play studies of a farmer who murdered his family with an axe before hanging himself, then returning as an angry spirit searching for victims. I didn't fully believe them, but the atmosphere made it easy to pretend. One afternoon, we decided to play hide and seek across the abandoned property. When it was my turn to hide, I ran toward a rickety brown barn with living quarters built above it. The stairs creaked loudly as I climbed them, but adrenaline drowned out my fear. Inside, the place looked frozen in time. Furniture still stood where it had been left, and personal belongings were scattered across the floor as if the owners had vanished midday. I stepped carefully over broken plates, torn clothing, and crumbling books until I found a small bedroom with a closet. It felt like winning the lottery. Long black dresses still hung inside, creating the perfect hiding spot. I slipped in and pulled the folding door shut as best I could. A thin line of sunlight crept through the crack in the door, barely illuminating the space. I crouched down, hugged my knees to my chest, and waited in silence. Time passed slowly. At first, I listened for my cousins calling my name, but nothing came. Minutes stretched into what felt like forever. I debated giving myself up, but pride kept me hidden. Eventually, boredom overtook fear. My head drooped, and before I realized it, I drifted into sleep. When I woke suddenly, everything was pitch black. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was or why I was there, until reality crashed back into me. It was nighttime. Panic filled my chest as I realized I'd been left behind. My stomach sank with dread. I tried to stand, but a painful cramp seized my leg, forcing me to stay crouched. As I waited for it to pass, I heard a loud door slam downstairs. My body froze instantly. I thought it might be one of my cousins coming back for me, but what followed didn't sound right. Heavy footsteps echoed slowly across the floor below. Each step was deliberate, accompanied by a dull thud every other pace, as if something was dragging behind whoever or whatever was walking. These weren't the light footsteps of a child. The sound grew closer as the steps climbed the stairs. I held my breath, praying it would turn around. Instead, the footsteps reached the upper floor. A scraping noise followed, sending chills down my spine as it moved aimlessly through the rooms. A faint, putrid smell filled the air, something like decay. My fear intensified when the footsteps stopped outside the bedroom. Slowly, they approached the closet. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel its presence. After a long pause, the steps moved away and exited the room. I waited, terrified, convincing myself it was over. Just as I gathered courage to leave, everything happened at once. A wave of overwhelming stench hit me, like fresh roadkill. I heard raspy breathing behind me inside the closet. Then I felt hot breath against the back of my neck. That was enough. I burst out of the closet and ran blindly through the dark house, guided only by memory and moonlight. Behind me, footsteps gave chase, faster and closer than before. I tripped, slammed into walls, and never once looked back. I crashed through the front door and sprinted into the night. When I finally dared to turn around, there was nothing there. No footsteps, no figure. Still, I didn't stop running until I reached my aunt and uncle's house. A police car was parked in the driveway, and my parents were there, frantic. Everyone demanded to know where I had been. The police told me they'd searched every building on the property and found nothing. Years later, one of my cousins admitted something they never told anyone. While searching for me that evening, they thought they saw me in the upstairs window of the barn. But when they got closer, they realized it wasn't me. A boy they didn't recognize was smiling and waving at them, motioning for them to come inside. That's when they ran home. I had been asleep in the closet the entire time. Fast forward to the present. I'm 16 now, one of the older kids on my block. There aren't many of us: Alan, Dan, Johnny, Daniela, Nick, and Tom, but we stick together. Friday nights usually meant playing manhunt around the neighborhood. Our area isn't crowded, with lots of empty space and abandoned homes, which made the game more exciting. One night, it was my team's turn to hide, and Dan was with me. We decided to use Mr. Nelson's house, which had been vacant since he passed away years ago. Behind the property was a lake and thick bush, perfect hiding spots, Dan suggested. Sneaking inside the house through a sliding window, I stayed outside, hidden in the bushes. After a few minutes, kids from the other team searched the backyard before moving on. That was our chance to run. I looked up at the house to signal Dan. I saw someone standing in an upstairs window, looking down at me. Relieved, I waved for Dan to come on. He didn't move. Confused, I entered the house and called his name. My heart nearly stopped when Dan whispered back from only a few feet away. He said he'd been downstairs the whole time. At that moment, we heard creaking from above us. We didn't wait to investigate, we ran. We ended the game immediately and went to Dan's dad. He insisted. No one had lived in that house for years. The four of us returned to investigate. Dan's dad led us upstairs to the bathroom where I'd seen the figure. He turned on the lights. The room was empty, except for a crumpled reddish-brown blanket on the floor. We searched the entire house and found nothing else. Dan's dad told us that if we ever saw anything or anyone in that house again, we should call the police immediately. Months have passed since that night, and nothing else has happened. Still, I can't shake the feeling that someone or something was there with us. I know what I saw, and I know Dan wasn't upstairs. The similarities between these two experiences haunt me. In both cases, there was a boy in a window who wasn't really there. Someone trying to lure others inside. Someone watching, smiling, waiting. It makes me wonder how long these things have been around, hiding in empty places, unnoticed until someone stumbles too close. I don't visit abandoned buildings anymore. I don't play games that involve hiding in dark places. Some memories never fade, and some doors, once opened, can't be closed again. Whatever I encountered back then, and whatever we encountered recently, I know one thing for certain. We weren't alone, and I don't think we ever were.